Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Indie Game Movement, the podcast that talks about the marketing and business of indie games. I'm Andrew Pappas. I'm going to be your host today, and we're going to be talking about building momentum without burning out. You know, thousands of games launch every month, and building momentum can often feel like an impossible task. But momentum that matters doesn't come from massive budgets, it comes from focus. So today, we're going to break down how indie teams can develop repeatable marketing strategies that turns engagement into lasting relationships, setting the foundation to keep their games moving forward. So that's what we're going to be talking about right here today on Indie Game Movement. Hey, everybody, and we're back. And today I have John Hanson with us. John, how's it going, bud? And thanks so much for being here.
It's going great, man. Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. And yeah, folks, for those of you who don't know or are familiar with John, he is the founder and CEO of Skill Tree Marketing. And well, love the name, by the way, Skill Tree, totally tailored to, leveling up, marketing and stuff. And it's one of the reasons why we're here today to talk about. But John, please, could you tell us a little bit more about Skill Tree Marketing, and maybe also a little bit about yourself too, and that and how that came about, and what are the things you're helping indie devs with?
Yeah, of course. And thanks again, Andrew, for having me. So, Skill Tree Marketing, I lead a team of industry vets. Collectively, we've published more than 100 games, driving more than 3 billion in revenue, working on some of the biggest IP in the industry. Our team on average has an average tenure of 15 years of experience in the industry. So we're seasoned, we have a lot of experience. And the reason I started this company is I saw a big need in the industry, especially in the indie community, of a lack of real seasoned marketing experience. And I think a lot of indies, they turn to publishers because they want them to solve the marketing problem, but that's not always the right fit for everyone. And they may also think that marketing may be out of reach as far as budget or cost, and they're really unsure like what to do. And to make matters even more complex is, well, marketing can be viewed as somewhat of a black box
Oh
and
yeah.
a big mystery. And so there's regular conversation and debate in the indie dev discords and reddits and all the different areas, and conversations I've just had with studios around what the heck do we do
Yeah.
and who do we trust.
And that's the biggest one too. I mean, trust is a big factor. I mean, with anything, right? But especially as with marketing, or another big one is I've is art too. That's a different thing, but not what we're here about. But yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's really interesting. And I mean, so helping people out with that. And I know you mentioned lots of experience, but I'll just quickly go through just to give folks here some context. I mean, you've helped out with projects and the strategy for games like Hogwarts Legacy, Mortal Kombat 1, Lego Star Wars, and a bunch others, and really scale the efforts of other projects and everything else in that time. So lots of cool things. And you know what's exciting too, John, is the fact that, like you're saying, is bringing, not just recognizing the need, but now getting to a point we were talking earlier pre-recording that there's, I would say, more and more people coming to the ground with that level of experience and understanding, and really being able to offer it and make it more accessible to indie studios. So it's really exciting to have, people like yourself that are doing these things, and making sure that, people are really taken care of when it comes to this black box of marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you're not so busy with that, because I know you have been ramping up. You're saying how things are going well, and continue to grow and whatnot. What do you do to unwind in your spare time or whatever, if when you have any?
I like to think that this is what differentiates me from a lot of marketing people in just in general, but also in the industry is I am truly a hardcore gamer. And if I'm not working on games or marketing games, I'm usually playing games in my free time with my wife is also a big gamer. We have two of every console, so we don't have to fight over who plays. We have two TVs next to each other in the game room, so we can play cooperatively. And if you're playing single players, we each play our own game. So, I mean, I love playing games, love to spend time with our animals, go travel and watch some sports and, nothing too fancy, but, I'm a gamer through and through at heart.
Awesome. I love that. I feel like I am too, but yet I rarely make the time I feel I should sometimes to play games. It's just for me it's a bandwidth issue. But no, I would say yeah. There are others like you, but I would say there are few. There are few that are that dedicated and I mean in terms of what you just described in your layout. So I appreciate that. I think that's awesome and stuff that to commit to that. It's and plus not you're not even committing. It's just part of like who you are. It's part of what makes it is fun.
Yeah, I do it for fun. I've been playing games since I was a kid, so I think the commitment is just what was ingrained in me as a child growing up playing video games.
Yeah, like how many of you recall those like nights or mornings that you're up until 4 a.m. and then you're like, oh, I should really go to bed now because you're playing video games. Oh, those are the days. All right. Well, thank you for letting us get to know you a little bit more, but we want to get to know even more about you. And to do that, we're going to have you go through the Q Box round. And folks, for those of you who aren't familiar, Q Box, it's just a few random questions I prepared here for John today. So, John, are you ready for the Q Box round?
Let's do it.
All right. First is what's one habit you do to keep a clear and healthy mind?
Spend time with my wife and getting out of the house is good, or playing games, one of the two.
Excellent. All right. Next is what's the most common mistake you see devs or studios make with their games?
They don't put together a plan and they don't execute the plan. And it's typically where I advise studios to start. And, a frequent question is, when do I start marketing? And I commonly like to tell people before you write a single line of code.
Yep.
Why is that? Because at big publishers, before they invest millions of dollars into development of a game, they go through a green light process. And part of that green light process involves marketing research and analyses. And so, studios really need to think about how they're going to take their game to market when they're working on the prototype of the game they want to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And yeah, it's one of those weird ones too. Like, cause you got the passion, the drive. Let's start making it, and then it's like, oh, but hey, and that's why we see that, especially with first time projects. But it does carry over to project 2, 3, and beyond that too. So, yeah, great point. Last but not least, and the staple here on the show is, what game are you playing now?
Expedition 33.
Ah, there you go. I need to play that one.
It, yeah, I've been playing some other games and I finally got to it. And from the very early moments of that game, you can tell you're playing something special. Like if I did not know about the buzz, if I just went in completely blind, I mean, you can tell just the craft that has been put into that game, the aesthetics, the visual art, the music, the combat. I mean, it just all comes together in something that is, not groundbreaking, I think, as far as the gameplay goes. It very much harkens to the JRPG style with some like Souls-like elements and like dodging and parrying and understanding your enemy move sets. But it's just a wonderful game that I think is going to clean up at the Game Awards this year.
Awesome. Well, love hearing about it. And again, thank you for going through that Q Box round, and so we could get to know you a little bit more. Now, that said, let's get into the conversation. And folks, like I led in with the intro, we're going to be talking about building momentum without burning out, because that's huge, right? Like the momentum part is, but also we don't ever want to burn out. And but sometimes that's harder to achieve, and we want to see if there's anything we could do to avoid that, especially as it comes to marketing. So to kick things off, John, I'm curious, what do you think is like the biggest misconception that indie developers have about marketing their games?
They look at it as a checkbox or a transactional moment where I need to market my game. So let's do influencers. Check. Done. Or they really look at it as, hey, I know I need marketing. I'm going to do this thing and that's all I'm going to do, right? They don't think about how marketing is truly ongoing, sustained effort. It's not just a one and done. It is a constantly thinking about marketing your game.
I love that take too, because that's a lot of what I've learned and found out too, is like, and the word that caught my attention is transactional, because it's like, okay, we need this, we'll execute and done. Because a lot of time the way I approach things and look things too is like, you're really, even though it doesn't seem like it, but you're really building a relationship with these people, that these people that are going to play your game. And like think about like think back to the time that you had memorable moments playing a game, whether it was with friends, whether you just remember one specific moment of your favorite game or a game that really called out and resonated with you. Like like all those things contribute to some type of relationship, especially this day and age where we're so connected and online and everything. But if we look at it just as a transactional or just a checkbox, then I don't know. It's missing a big component, and because of that, I think we miss all the other nuances that are associated with those things that really tie into this like cohesive experience that is marketing. But again, we look at it something different.
Yeah, 100%, man. You talk about trust, and I truly believe that trust is the most valuable currency in the game industry, both business to business, but also and especially business to consumer, business to gamers, right? It one it is very hard to build trust in the industry because there's so many bad actors and bad games and people that
Right.
mislead you, misleading marketing. And so people are skeptical and they have a right to be, right? Like everything in the world wants you to buy this or download that or play this. And so who do you trust and what do you give your precious time and money and resources to, right? And so
Exactly.
that's why like looking at it as like a one and done event is the incorrect way to approach it. The best brands in the world for decades have been building trust with their consumers, with their fans. And for that reason, it's all about building relationships with the gamers, with the people that are playing your game, that are interested in your game and the community around that game. Because if you can do that, then they're going to tell their friends and they're going to be advocates for your game and they're going to defend it and just love it. And conversely, if you say the wrong thing to them and lie to them and mislead them, they're also going to tell their friends about how bad your
Yep.
game
It
is,
goes both
right?
ways. Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring us some interesting points too about like, community and building this trust and everything. And one of the best ways we can do that are, like different channels, right? Especially if we're online focused, which I would imagine most of us would be. I mean, yes, you could still have some physical presence at events and stuff, but like in terms of like modern game marketing, with so many channels that are available from, social to you considering influencers, storefronts and stuff, how would you say like smaller teams should decide kind of where to focus their efforts? Is there any like right channel? Is should it be everything? Like what's your approach?
It truly depends on the resources and budget you have. Ideally, you have enough resources to have a true mixed campaign and marketing efforts where you're layering on social community, influencers, email, paid user acquisition if it makes sense to do so, events, on and on and on and on. There's all sorts of things you can layer on. But I would say like the number one thing that any developer, any studio should start with is storefront. So Steam, iOS App Store, Google Play, Sony, Nintendo, Xbox, it's the point of purchase, right? So all the marketing efforts you do, all the community efforts you do, if you're driving them to a place that's not set up to convert, then you've wasted all of those efforts or not fully, taking advantage of that opportunity. It takes a lot to get them there. So you want them to convert when they are there.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a solid point too. And one I have advised many on as well too. Even before I was in games marketing, it's because a big history of mine is in paid advertising. Right, you're spending money to run ads, but if wherever you're directing them to, and it doesn't matter what the campaign is. So like whether you're using paid ads or organic or whatever, if you're driving people to go to this place to, like you say, to convert, but it's not set up or well established or properly communicating what it is that you're going to be providing, then that could be a lot of wasted effort. And that's why sometimes, like, even though I know paid ads don't have maybe the same sentiment as like organic, maybe it's not as authentic because it's paid and such, but think of all the time and energy put into the organic efforts to find out that, oh, we're not converting, and we haven't gone through the trouble to find out exactly why. It's not to say that anything was done maybe poorly, but maybe it just wasn't communicating what it needed to properly convert. So I love that you call out that, because I don't think we think as much as how important that means and what that equates to in terms of the times and resources that we spent on that now we have to go do that again, but we still have to make that game.
Yeah, a great analogy is like a restaurant. And imagine that the restaurant owner has gone around town, they've given out flyers, they've told all their friends, they put up billboards, they got TV ads, they do all that stuff, and they bring everyone to the restaurant, and they get to the restaurant and it's a total dump. It's broken down, like it just looks like rats coming out of it, right? Like no one's gonna want to eat in that restaurant, and you've done all that effort and all that time to get them there. You want to make sure that when they arrive, that it looks good, that they want to eat at the restaurant.
Right. Yeah. It looks good. The food is coming out smelling great and all that stuff. And yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's no different than something like that. And sometimes we need to be a little hard on ourselves. We need to put that lens on and be like, hey, is this as good as it can be? But we don't want to. It's a balancing act though too, because we don't want to overthink stuff too and then just never execute either, right? So
Dude,
it's one of those things.
It's especially hard for devs because they're so close to the game. They're so close to it. It's their baby. Their precious child that they have raised and brought, they have brought up, and so it's hard sometimes to like look at your baby and think that it's ugly. And and this is also a challenge, when other people like marketing people come in and tell them that their page sucks, their baby's ugly. It's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, but you got to be realistic with yourself and understand that the market is super competitive. There's so many games, there's so many other things vying for your attention that you got to be critical about how you're presenting your game to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note of being critical too, I'm kind of curious because I know that there can be like, there's approaches, right, to marketing and stuff. And in that, I know that sometimes it's about what is the story that you're telling. And I'm saying like the story, or what's that narrative about the project, about the actual experience. Even it could be about the developer's journey too. But at the same time, the need and understanding of, hey, we need results. We need to hit these numbers to get whatever we're looking to achieve. So what are ways that developers can balance that creative storytelling in their marketing, but also with the need for data and measurable results to kind of like infer, future marketing decisions?
Yeah, I mean, this happens in marketing organizations and teams as well. There's just constant debate over the interpretation of data. And
Hmm.
there's so many data points that you can collect about the funnel, the user journey of from social media. How many impressions were there? How many clicks were there? How many people went to the link? How many people went to the page? And it, it's a science, but it could be hard and to get in the weeds. But like I think you want to look at it in aggregate as a whole. Like, are more people coming to the page? Are more people converting on the page? You can get caught up like on a per channel basis. Like, how's my TikTok doing? How's my Instagram doing? How is the community sentiment like, right? But you know, I think I think it's just like trying to look at it as a whole as the best as you can, rather than getting caught up in the weeds over like super hyper optimization of each channel. Like, sure, like you should be looking at the data and trying to optimize to the best of your ability, but it's imperfect. And what works today may not work tomorrow. So just understanding that it's going to be a constant learning and growing experience with the game, and not getting caught up too much if something doesn't work, and not getting too excited if something does work.
Yeah. Yeah, those are really good points too, because it's like it's funny. I've seen and even done like both sides of that too, but I couldn't agree with you more, because especially with smaller teams where you're wearing those multiple hats, if you get too into the weeds on one thing, that means there's a whole lot of other things you're not focusing on or doing. And then, like, to your point, what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. And if that ends up being the case, again, that's a lot of time and resources that you are dwelling on something else. But yeah, it could be a tough one, but essentially it comes down to, like, looking, it sounds like what you're saying too is look at kind of that high level. Is overall what I'm putting out there, what I'm communicating to people, consistent? Is it aligned with what I'm saying, align with what that experience is going to be like, the best way I can possibly like put it or whatever. Because there, at least regardless of where you're putting those efforts, at least it's going to be consistent and you're going to properly set those expectations. Whereas if you drill down too much into results, it's like, oh, let's try this tactic too, because we saw someone do really well on TikTok for this, and then we're going to focus on that. What if that message somehow is very different than something else that you've been putting out? And again, it's like they say, the devil can be in the details, and you can get really lost in them sometimes.
Yep, 100%, man. And it you bring up a good point too. Like, you can certainly get really in the weeds on creative testing and messaging, and did this color impact the click-through rate, and did this the placement of this copy. And yeah, if you have a large marketing organization, they have people that they do just that, right? They just optimize. That's all they do. That's their entire job, is optimizing creative. But if you're an indie studio, dude, you do not have time to get that in the weeds,
No.
man. Like, you just don't. Like, you like don't kill yourself over like every little tiny detail. Like, just put it out there, test it, see what it does, move on, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because again, sometimes a lot of us like those details, like data and information. I know I do, but it took me a lot of learning over years too to realize, like, sometimes it's that higher level stuff, that bigger picture that can make all the difference. So, you know,
And
and
it's
I'm sorry, John, what were you saying?
sorry, yeah, it's imperfect too, because
Mm,
just because a social media post did well, did that mean that it drove somebody to buy the game or add to wish list? Maybe they just thought it was funny. If they saw an ad, did that really, if they clicked on it, did that really get them to add it to wish list, or was it something else that they heard? It's imperfect as a whole.
yeah. And even for those that are like super super savvy and like marketing specialists and stuff, guess what? The attribution for games is still horrible. with the exception of mobile, but that's a different topic. But still, it
Even
really is.
mobile is a mess, man.
It's better than what we have for everything else. But you're right. But yeah, because even with all that data, there's still lots of unknowns, and I think that's kind of the point we're making too. Is just that higher level sometimes, it's a saving grace, but it also allows you to do the other things that you're looking to do. In terms of things that people could be doing, and maybe like stuff that's underrated, and I don't know, are interesting opportunities. Are there any like certain marketing levers that indie teams aren't pulling enough of?
Well, first I'd say, as I mentioned before, start with your storefront, your Steam page. Make sure that that's good to go. Like look at other games in your genre. Look at similar games that do really well. They've got a lot of reviews, a lot of people purchase them, and just look at the page and how it's set up. Like look at trends. Are there visuals in the description? What's the trailer look like? How is the trailer set up? What's the screenshot order? How do they describe the game? What's the capsule art look like? Optimize that as much as you can. Beyond that, it's taking the plan and treating it kind of like a sprint. Like that's familiar for devs, right? Like they have milestones and such. It's the same. Just build it into your sprints of, hey, I know that over the next 2 weeks, next 4 weeks, we're going to have X amount of content that we're going to release. We're going to release them on these many platforms, and having a cadence that realistic for you and your resources and your team, but that you can track and measure and follow through on, and that you have accountability. Like it's consistency for sure. Like we talked earlier about the marketing being transactional, and it's really an ongoing effort. It's not a one and done. It's not a binary. And so having that consistency with your efforts is what's going to drive results. Like too many devs get discouraged and don't have a plan, and they post once or twice on social media and nobody comments, nobody reacts, nobody does anything, and they say, well, this didn't work, and they give up and they don't try again. Or maybe they'll post again in another week, or maybe they'll post again in another month. And that's not going to do it, man. Like you got to stick to it. You got to have goals, you got to have milestones, and you have to execute.
Yeah, it's and we get it. It is hard to do those things, but at the same time, I think some of it just comes down to the understanding of accepting and committing to something like that. And I know that can be a challenge. I mean, I speak from my own experience in past and such, and we're only human, right? But at the same time, having that understanding and having that level of commitment and everything, I think can make all the difference. And it doesn't mean you have to like give up so much to do these things either. You could start, like you said, within your means, resources and stuff too. That's sometimes all it takes to make to start moving that needle.
Yeah, 100%.
For those of us out there that are in a tight budget, I would say a lot of us can speak to this to some degree. And even if it's not tight, there's a budget. What would you say is like one high leverage marketing move that often delivers results? Or is it a combination of things? Is there a one thing that will do it or not?
No, there's not one thing. I get asked that question all the time. They're like, John, what's the one thing I can do? Right? I just want to do one thing. Please tell me. Like, can I just put all my money in influencers and be done? No, please don't do that. As effective as you think. Anyhow, yeah, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. I'm gonna say at the storefront. Here's like some quick practical advice that is often overlooked is the capsule art on Steam, right? You're up against all these other titles, so you need the capsule art to pop and get someone to click on the capsule art or hover over it, whatever. I would say getting a professionally made capsule art and having a couple variants of that and running a small paid user acquisition test on Meta or Google, whatever, and allocating, let's just say $500 and setting up multi-variants of those pieces of art and measuring which one will drive the highest click-through rate, because it's going to help inform not just the capsule art, but you could get other insights as well. You can test different copy, you can test different colors, messages, and so you can get a sense of like what's actually resonating versus others, and you get really quick signal. Social media can take a while, and there's no true A/B testing on organic social, so it's a low cost way to get some quick data points that can inform what you should do around your other marketing activations.
You know, if you were to call out like a one thing, I think that's one of the best ones you could. I know you spoke about like, capsule art storefront and such, but with the ad thing, it's such a key one. And I can speak to this from experience too, because I when I have done this before too, it's for those exact, there's other objectives or results that we're looking to get with these campaigns. However, one of the key things that I get from all these, regardless of what those objectives are, is exactly what you called out. You're like, you can test out the biggest thing that you're going to find out is what creative works. Creative specifically, what's the image that you're using? And a lot of times it is going to be some type of key art or something similar, whatever. And in a very, very short amount of time, you said $500. That's more than enough. You could probably get answers pretty quickly in a short amount of time without even spending as much as that. You'd still probably want to do an effective test and run a full campaign at maybe that budget, but lots of insight you can get very quickly. And here's the other thing too: 500. For some of us that might seem like a lot just to run a quick paid test ad, but again, if you were to do an exercise, let's say, of how long, what is your time worth, like, and boil it down to a dollar amount. And then if you were to say, like, with all this amount of time, and plus for me to get enough of like a data to determine in an A/B test type setup to get all this stuff, you might be the same, if not spending more money on you spending time trying to get this answer from a typical like social media stuff. Now, I'm not saying go out and just start running ads, but it is one very effective way you can learn very, very quickly. And that's going to inform, like John said, and the him risking sounding like a broken record about, focusing on your storefront. That's a really, really effective way to do that pretty quickly. And I can attest for it, at least. So I love that point. It's not the one thing to do, but it's one thing that will help inform a lot of other things that are going to help you move that needle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just happy that you brought that up. One thing that you mentioned earlier, John, was about consistency. And, I'm curious then, too, when it comes to that, how can smaller teams build and sustain player interest? And let's say from when they announce their game all the way up until launch. I'm sure consistency is part of that key, but is there anything else in between that to really do what they can to sustain interest? Because I know sometimes that can be hard. Like, how do we, like, where or when or how often we show up? Is there more to it? Any insight on that?
Just engage with people, just like a human being, like person to person. Like, it's not just a game or a brand talking to someone. You treat it like a natural conversation, right? Like, you don't show up and meet somebody and all you do is talk about yourself and how awesome you are and you should do the thing that I want you to do, right? Most people that have relationships ask each other questions. How are you doing today? What do you like? And also, like, going into other places as well, that, if we're looking at a community perspective, like, just not just posting on your own channels, but going into other communities and engaging with them, and not just saying, hey, go check out my game, it's amazing, it's awesome and beautiful and wonderful, but hey, I like your game, or what do you guys think of this? Or, or offering up helpful advice, or, if there's other communities where, your game solves a unique problem, going in, and when people complain about those problems, you can naturally engage and say, oh yeah, we also feel that same pain. That's why we made this game that solves that problem. You should check it out. It's really cool.
Yeah, I would have to say that's a great call out there is, one, engaging with people and just treating them like people. There's so many times, I'm sure you see this too, where people are like, "Hey, go check out my game." And even there's a lot of times too it doesn't look like, maybe from internally, the whoever's posting it, it doesn't look like that. But and players might not necessarily call it out specifically, right? But in the back of their mind, they might be thinking, "Oh, it's just another post about here's this game, here's this game." How many times do we see posts like that? Like we becomes desensitized to it and everything, and we ignore those types of posts. But then if it's something about that's going to focus on, I don't know, me as a player or someone just having a conversation, like, quick example, it's so funny when I reach out to people on LinkedIn sometimes and just ask them like a question, and there's a reserve because they think I'm going to sell them something. It's like, no, you just followed me, and I really just wanted to have a conversation, find out more about the person who decided to connect. And they're like, oh wow, like they don't know what to make of it, right? But it's like, then people start really engaging when that happens. It's all because of just a one small minor thing shift that you took just to change how what they are accustomed to or what those expectations are in these areas. And you said, like, engage with people, find out more about them, find out more about their project, and then through that you can find out about the problems, and then you're like, I have the solution to your problem because you hate this style of game because they always do this thing, and now I'm address that issue. So many great things that are happening. So it sounds like then, when it comes to sustaining that interest, just just talk to more people, and yeah, it can be a process and everything, but like, in time you're going to really learn and see how that interest grows and people share with other friends and everything else.
It's building, yeah, it's building and cultivating relationships with, with the people that you want to, buy your game. You talk about folks on LinkedIn and how you approach them, and it's really similar on the B2B side too, where, they're the people that just drop in your inbox are like, hey, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. Like it's just such a cringe approach, right? Where, when I talk to studios, I'm totally just wanting to help them. Like, if you want to get services with us, like, great, but like, that's not what I'm angling for to begin with. I don't even know if you need our help. You may be completely set. So, I just want to see, like, hey, like, is there something that you need help with? If we don't offer it, or we can't do it, or we're not the best fit, like, maybe I know somebody that, like, can help, fill a gap that you have. Maybe I can put you in touch with somebody. Like, I talk to studios where, man, they got a killer game and they really need funding. And I'm like, I know some people, go check them out, right? I'll introduce you, right? But it's, it goes back to what we talked about, transactional, right? Like, it shouldn't be transactional. It's, how can we help each other out, right? And I think people are a lot more likely to work with you when you take that approach of not, I just want to force this thing on you. It's listening to what they want and what they need, hearing them out, and building real relationships, both in B2B and on the B2C side.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it goes right back to what we were talking about before, about that relationship building, that building that trust, establishing that trust and everything. And part of it is just like, when we're putting our message out there about our game, are you establishing trust by asking people, go check out my game, or engaging with them and finding out more about them as a person, as a player, or whatever? I mean, I think it's pretty clear which one is going to do a better job at establishing trust. You still need to tell them at some point to get the game, but not every interaction or a majority of them. I know we're coming on time here, John, and we definitely talked a lot of like really good stuff here. But based on like everything we discussed, are there any like, tips, suggestions, or recommendations you would make to people listening today based on our conversation?
Yeah, I just want to urge anyone in the industry that's making a game, any developers, to take marketing very seriously and give it the resources that it needs. It's not just trying to schlock stuff or sell stuff. It's a very, very, very competitive market. You're not just up against the hundreds of thousands of games that get released every year. You're up against everything that wants your attention, from social media to television, to music, to film, to your family, to your car, whatever it is in the world. There's so many things that are trying to get your attention and get you to spend with them. So, games especially is a very tough and competitive market. You need to take your marketing efforts very seriously. And if you don't have the time to do it correctly, invest in the business, because that's what it is. It's a business. So you can grow it appropriately. If you are making a game as a hobby and you do not have business goals and business aspirations, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's probably good to start as a hobbyist, making mods, making a few games before you pour a bunch of money into development and taking a game to market, because it's tough. And the most successful indies out there, they failed a lot before they had success. They released several games before they got a hit. The team that made Landfall, they nearly went bankrupt. They released flops before they had peak. The guy that made Balatro had made several games that went nowhere. Didn't even think Balatro was going to be much of anything. And so it takes there's a lot of failure before you get to success. But when you are ready and you are serious and you want to have a successful, sustainable business, you need to invest into marketing, please.
I absolutely love those points too, because again, I think even though, we've at least said some of these in some capacity on the show before, it always goes to show that the importance of, having a refresher. Like, you're going to fail lots and lots of times before you're going to succeed. And it's not so much as looking at it as a failure. It's really looking at it as, that a learning experience. But sometimes we view it as a failure, but that's, again, sometimes it's just that shift in perspective. And that's a really important one. And investing in your business is no different than like what a lot of people say, even outside of this space, that are successful and stuff. The number one contributing factor they say to, or like big time, whoever, think of anybody who's successful, right? One of the biggest things they always will, a majority of them will say is, well, I invested in myself. And investing in yourself is no different than investing in your business. So, and then, taking these things seriously when you're ready to, and you're at that point. John, these are such amazing, great points. And, can't thank you enough for sharing them. Hey, look, I know
And, Andrew, if I may, I want to add one more thing.
Do it up.
I've been having some very great conversations with Pete Hines. He was the former head of publishing for Bethesda. And we talk about how marketing is like a microphone, and it's going to amplify whatever it is that your game is. And so when devs are trying to figure out the effectiveness of marketing, the product is the most important thing. The game itself is the most important thing. So you can put up a microphone to a bad game and turn the volume up, and people are going to hear it. But if they come to the game and it's not good, they're not going to be interested. Inversely, if you're seeing validation with your game that the data is looking good as far as retention on the game, if people are playing, it's reviewed well, then in that instance, that's when I would say turn that microphone up, turn that marketing megaphone up, because if you're getting signal that you're onto a great product and game, that's especially when you need to invest into marketing.
I love that, because again, it's like it what you just outlined there is just a simple process of, validate and then, amplify, essentially. So if you can't validate and confirm that and get that validation, then just keep on the track. But otherwise, when you do, there you go. That's a really good signal. Love that you shared that one, and thank you. John, it's been great. If people want to connect, reach out, learn more about Skilltree, please drop us some links. What are ways people can do that?
They can visit skilltreemarketing.com. They can find myself, John, Jon, Hanson, Hanson, on LinkedIn. I post weekly content, typically Tuesday through Thursday. I'm posting content about marketing your game. I do case studies. I share insights and playbooks that are really valuable. They're free. So please follow along, say hi. And if you need some help or some friendly advice, feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to talk.
Awesome. Well, John, can't thank you enough, folks. Check out skilltreemarketing.com if you're in the need for some services, and LinkedIn. I have followed lots of John's content before, and yeah, some really good stuff there. So check him out there. John, can't thank you enough. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and thank you for all the insights that you shared with us today.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Indie Game Movement. I'm Andrew Pappas, your host, and the show's producer is Mustafa Price. Show notes for this episode can be found by visiting rengenmarketing.com, the number episode of the show. Rengen Marketing is a consulting marketing company that helps indie devs with their marketing efforts. Whether you need guidance with your game's marketing strategy or could use a free marketing plan template, then please visit www.rengenmarketing.com and take action. A special thanks to Dakota Saw for Season 2's opening theme and Melissa Gellis for the new logo design. And as always, thanks for being such great listeners, and we'll see you next time on Indie Game Movement.